Hello, hello. Здравствуйте. Привет, Клоп. Привет, Джоглус. Здравствуй, Каджит. Снова здравствуй. Hello, everyone. And here I am. And we're getting ready to continue the game. But I should start with a short relapse for the events of the previous stream. Well, I would say the most hilarious part of what we've seen last time was magnificent banter between sorry, my alarm. Magnificent banter between Sister Salome and Cien Brofias. Sorry, I don't like French words and they don't like me even more. Also, we noticed that, hey, we've been bought by Cien as his personal mate, which is fairly disturbing, but part of life in such a world, I guess. Then we kinda gathered our initial team for catching Burrow. We decided on a plan, to be precise, on a plan to create new fake bodies, use them as a disguise to lure Burrow, whoever he will turn out to be, catch him, and finish that part. We had some sort of responsibilities distribution. What we exactly did while staying at adult home, where Eve brought all of us for some mysterious reasons. We are busy with basic domestic stuff. By we I mean Taras, the protagonist of the game. And others are busy with their own things. Lucas had to depart and finish some of his professional business, so he'll be able to join everyone else. At the same time, sorry. At the same time, I'm sorry, I have slight problems with my throat today. Again, my apologies. And I lost the line of my thought. Well, we're getting stuff ready, we're preparing enough food to wait for a few days and thus catch Burrow. I think we can already download it. Клоп говорит, немножечко не понял, почему пропустил уведомление, пока не посмотрел на время, которое я был на парах. Да, кто-то по приколу поставил нам 5-й и 6-е пары единственными на сегодня. В итоге мы с 6-й все равно ушли, потому что ничего не происходило. Это, собственно, электротехника, на которой у нас нет оборудования. В этот раз профессор, который мы в прошлый раз проходили, болеет. Понимаю. Печально. Но, хотя, с другой стороны, смотрел 6-й пары. С другой стороны, а какого хрена деньги идут на обучение, если обучения нет? Грустно. Грустно, печально, печально, грустно, грустно, печально. How was your day? How was it treating you? Well, not so well. While I'm waiting for your responses, пока я жду, когда вы мне расскажете, как прошел ваш день, я продолжу читать новеллу. Но мне точно нужно выпить больше. 2 hours later.
よいしょっと。これで必要なものは全部揃ったかな？ 3 往復してやっと終わったな。
Thank you so much. You two should rest for the day. I went outside to greet them as they returned with bags of groceries.
荷物を中に運ぶの、僕もお手伝いします。
Let me help carry some of them inside. Matthias quickly followed behind me when he let out a gasp and turned pale upon seeing Eve.
イブさん、腕の底、血が滲んでます。
I looked more closely and discovered a bit of red seeping through Eve's clothes.
荷物を持つために力んだ時、少し傷口が開いちゃったかな。
We have to treat it right away. Isn't it the one you got from Bureau?
いや、血の量も少ないし大丈夫。それより先に荷物を中へ。
We'll carry everything inside. Let me get some medicine and bandages. I wouldn't care if there wasn't a rating system based in part on our attendance. Well, that's understandable. I kinda understand that policy from both sides. But it still sucks. Matthias, can you please lead Eves inside and make sure that he doesn't make a run for it?
はい、任せてください。しっかり連行させていただきます。
包帯も薬ももったいないよ。このぐらい放っておけばすぐ治るって。
もう問答無用です。
You're so cute. I'm sorry, Adolphe. I'm going to leave the groceries here for a moment. You go and rest if you're tired, okay?
あいつもマティスも本当にしたたかになったな。逆にイブのやつは相変わらずか。簡単に治るもんじゃねえのは分かってるし、助けられることもあるが、やっぱ見てるこっちが危なっかしい。
おやおや。戻ってきた途端、美味しそうな食材の山に出迎えられてしまいました。
あんたか？
はい、私です。おかげさまで用事を済ませることができました。こちらの食材はすべて中に運び入れる予定なのですか？
ああ、ただ人手が足りねえ。邪魔だろうが、今は避けて通ってく。
よいしょっと。さすがに量が量なのでバランスを取りづらいですね。先ほどのお礼として私が食料庫まで運んでおきますので。
Just in case if you didn't catch that one. Weakly, fragile-looking Lucas easily lifted amount of groceries and stuff that Eve and Adolphe could barely bring together with their power combined. Huh? You're saying Lucas carried all the groceries himself? And all at once too? Adolphe entertained us with a joke just as I was bandaging Eve's wound. He nodded in response to my question, at which point Eve and I both smiled. Really? You sure like joking about our old teacher, Adolphe?
実際は先生と2人で運んでくれたんだよね。ありがとう。手伝えなくてごめん。
次は僕もお手伝いしますから。 小麦粉とか重かったですよね。腕、痛めていませんか？
大丈夫ですよ。重いものの大半はアドルフ君が運んでくれましたから。
He enjoys it.
なんで毎回俺しか目撃者がいねえんだ。
Club says, the best part is our damn turnstile and the computer system connected to it, which simply loses our attendance from time to time. Need to let the programmer know so that he'll fix it. Give me a second, I need to grab my glasses. Sorry. I'm sorry. Hello, Mouth. Thank you for coming. I'm glad to see you here. Sorry. Okay, now I can see. With our daily necessities taken care of, I was able to clean the place myself. It didn't take more than a few minutes. That should do the trick. I asked Adolphe beforehand what should be kept and what could go. After sweeping the dust into a dustpan, I wiped down the rest of the surfaces. The place is cleaner now, so they'll only need to push aside the furniture to sleep. Still, this place looks a bit too cramped for 5 to sleep next to each other. I felt guilty about getting a room all to myself under these conditions. I also hate to call this position a programmer, but you know, that's what they call them in professional circus. Well, I understand. What is correct name for this? Системный администратор или никейщик в некоторых случаях, I think. Мне так кажется. Then again, considering I attracted bad luck, it was better to keep my distance from them. The best I can do for them now is make sure they can do what they need to do without worrying about much else. Ну, тоже думаю, что не кейщик, но иногда их называют, особенно в плане должности, системными администраторами. This was a job that I signed up for. Once everything has been cleaned, I asked them to check if everything was alright, and they were fine with the results. Eve had been in contact with Hugo during this time, and Matthias was in contact with Jean. They told Hugo and Jean about the operation, rang for a tent to be brought, and asked them to get things ready to spread the rumor.
例の遺族とは明日にでも説明の場を設けてもらえることになりました。ひとまず俺とヒューゴで行って噂を広める段取りも決めてきます。
そうか、ご苦労。 やはりいいな。指示を飛ばさずとも自主的に動く有能な手駒というのは。
Лоб говорит, ну вот, видимо, сисадмин уже есть. И получится, что в нашей поликлинике, что компьютерщика надо назвать понятно, надо назвать понятно для людей. Ну, бывает, Клоп, бывает. It seemed no one was willing to respond to the way he called them pawns. Adolphus stared at Cian as he flipped through one of the books from the shelf. Noticing the book he was going through, Matthew spoke up.
あ、シアンさん。その本、もしかして、漂流者について書かれてる。
Cian nodded in response, then closed the book.
気分転換に読んでみたが、つまらん。ここには誰もが持っているような本しか置いていないのか。
逆に聞くが、一国民の家にどんな本を期待してんだ？
まあ、その本に記してある漂流者の知識は確かに誰もが知っている内容ですね。
そういえば、昔の話すぎて、今じゃおとぎ話扱いされてるけど、これって一応は歴史書で、書いてあることは全部事実なんだよね。
I knew a little about the subject as well. I learned about it in class before too. It was back when we didn't have reliable technology, and the people could only live until they were 23 years old. And something about countries beyond the ocean, where the people can live well beyond 8 years without becoming unreliable. There are stories of these elders who end their lives peacefully, with wrinkles on their skin and their hair all white. Hi, Lizzie. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you popping in. How was your day? I hope it was treating you gently. In the history books, they talk about how the drifter came from another land to tell everyone about how humans normally age.
そうなんです。
Matthew's eyes sparkled as he jumped into the conversation. Lazy response, I'm doing good. So far, almost finishing commissions. How about you? I'm... handling some side effects of my medication, but generally, it's tolerable. Thank you for asking. And again, thank you for coming. Really appreciate you visiting the stream.
その件で僕、ずっとシアンさんに尋ねたいことがありまして。
His usual shyness suddenly disappeared. Matthew struck up a conversation out of curiosity with a yawning Cian.
シアンさんがかつて、リライバー技術を開発するための知恵を、その人、国外から流れ着いた漂流者から授かったというのは、本当ですか？
ああ、そのことか。期待しているところを悪いが、いくら俺が最古のリライバーとはいえ、時間の計算が合わないだろ
う。Cian shrugged and explained that the drifter came well over 100 years ago.
ただ事実には限りなく近い。漂流者から知恵を授かったのは、俺の祖父だ。
This was over 100 years ago. For as long as Arpachella had been in existence, it had been isolated in the midst of rough waters. With no connection to the outside world, no one in this country knew that they were cursed to only live for 23 years. But one day, A man who would come to be known as a drifter was carried here by the strong currents. During his stay, he met a scientist. He relayed the irregularity of living for only 23 years.
この国は死神に見入られている。
His words quickly spread across the land, and soon enough, the people started to mourn the curse put upon them. It was then that the scientist, Cyan's grandfather, asked the drifter,
一体どうすれば死の呪いを打ち破ることができる？
The drifter answered,
わからない。だが、抗うための方法ならば、これらの書に書かれた知識を極めれば、たどり着けるかもしれない。
The drifter brought out 4 books. Those 4 books were said to contain knowledge from around the world. No, Club, it's not about these drifters. Among the array of information, the scientists discovered hope in the concept of genetics, memory recording and cloning technology. He decided to study those 2 subjects in an effort to extend one's lifespan by reviving as the same person after death.
しかし結局存命中に成果を残せず、父に後を継がせたものの、その父も音を上げて死んだのでな。しつこいぐらいに頼まれた俺がちょうど退屈だったのもあり、その基礎を応用してリライバー技術を開発したという。
Word beyond belief?
暇つぶしで開発されたんだね。この国の命綱になってる技術。
We looked at each other, perplexed by the odd truth behind the technology. On the bright side, adds Club, tomorrow we'll be doing Session 0 for the Wrath of Righteous campaign. Although the players have been almost silent this week, including my champion nephew. The very same one with whom I need to discuss which tribe, clan we belong to. Okay, I see.
でも、あの言い伝えが本当だと知れただけでも嬉しいです。ただ、漂流者はその後の話には一切登場しませんよね。どこに行ってしまったんですか？
知らん。
知らんって。
賞を譲ってしばらくした後、祖父と何やら揉めて雲隠れしたそうだ。
Well, actually, adds Club, he was sorry he did not have the time to do it. So we'll manage something.
ああ、だからあんな唐突に物語の中に出てこなく。もっと深い事情とか背景があるかと思っていたのに。
Matthijs had lowered with disappointment.
でも順当に考えれば、そのままこの国で暮らしたんじゃないかな。それこそ当時から徹底的に鎖国を貫いているうちの国からは誰だろうと脱出できないし。
私も同意見です。呪いのせいで他国からも疎まれているらしいので、救援も絶望的かと。今に至るまでこの国に訪れた国外の人間は漂流者ただ一人だけという事実は今もなお変わっていないと思いますよ。
That's a pretty sad thought. He couldn't return to his homeland despite finding his way here by accident. God says, tomorrow I'll probably be the one pestering everyone with questions. And I'm starting to like the idea. It sounds good indeed. Huh? Wait a minute. Does that mean there is a chance his bloodline is somehow alive in this country? He may have had a family here long ago. Just The thought of it felt romantic.
ふとガキの頃に抱いた疑問を思い出したんだが、漂流者が科学者に授けたという4冊あった学問書のうち、残りの3冊はどうなったんだ？
Xiang grimaced at Adolphus' question, then responded in a slightly bothered tone.
延命に無関係な分野の本など全く興味ない。と、目にも留めず受け取らずに突き返したらしいぞ。
Eve and Lucas grinned, as if they agreed it was something Xiang's grandfather would do.
でも、短命さえなんとかできれば、長生きはできるわけですし、その選択をするのも仕方ありませんね。今も、生命科学や医療、それらに付随する技術以外は、当時からほとんど発展していないそうですから。
しかし残りの本はどんな学問書だったのか、教師として純粋に知的好奇心をくすぐられますね。彼の祖父が受け取らなかったのなら、案外古本屋などの身近な場所に残っているかもしれません。
Lucas smiled playfully and asked that we let him know if we happened to find them. I wonder what you'd be studying with such a teacher. But yeah, it would be nice, despite all the other sides of that character. Lots of things, says Glob. Lots of things. With the history lesson over, everyone continued getting their personal belongings settled in the house. With so many things to be done, we decided to postpone discussion of our plan until tomorrow. We ended up having some free time to ourselves, later in the evening. Some were resting, while others were training to face Bureau. In my case, I'm done with the cleaning, so I really don't have anything to do now. It's been a while since I've been to Adolphus' house. I may walk outside for a bit. I decided to head out into the garden. Eve made a living by working 2 jobs. Likewise, Adolphus' secondary source of income was growing vegetables around his house and selling them at the marsh. The produce he sold was so fresh that they always sold out immediately. According to Adolphe, it was none other than Eve who taught him how to grow vegetables. Eve's pastime was tending to his garden, so he taught what he knew to Adolphe, who was looking for more work. As I was lost in my thoughts, suddenly, Matthew's frail body came flying towards the house. After bounding a couple times on the ground, he stopped just before hitting the house. Huh? Mattis? I hurried toward him. Mattis, are you alright? What happened? I propped up his dirt-covered body and checked to see if he was hurt. Don't tell me it's Burma. I glared and looked around the area, but Mattis got up from my arms and gave a weak smile.
違います。びっくりさせてごめんなさい。これ、ただの訓練ですから。
ほう。とっさにしてはうまく防いだな。小屋に直撃させるつもりで蹴り飛ばしたんだが。
The ant seemed to appear out of nowhere as he spoke. Behind him, Lucas was looking at Mattis with worry. What's going on?
見ての通り訓練だ。俺も最低限の護身術を自己流だが身につけていてな。運動代わりに一人で型を確かめていたら、こいつが自分を鍛えてくれと言い出し、しつこくてな。
Mathis reached out to the dull knife he had been using before slowly getting to his feet.
前回のことで自分の無力さを痛感したので、作戦までに少しでも強くなりたいと。シアンさん、科学者ですけどとっても強いんですよ。僕さっきの蹴り見切れませんでした。
ならもうやめるか。
いえ、もう一回お願いします。では行きます。
With a roar, Mathis positioned his knife and ran towards Cian head
行
on.
くと予告されて対応しない殺人鬼がいるか。
Cian kicked in a somewhat lethargic fashion. Sorry. Which was still strong enough to send Mathis back to the ground. Even so, Mathis stood up again and began to face his opponent. My wings owned at the sound of each blow landing on Mathis as I made my way toward Lucas. Is this really alright? It doesn't look like training to me.
大丈夫ですよ。ああ見えてシアンさんも加減をしているようですし、何より意外と言ったら失礼でしょうか。マティス君の立ち回りもなかなかのものです。
He's doing well? Seeing that Mathis was completely on the defensive, it didn't seem to me like he was doing so well.
マティス君の体力や身のこなし自体はシアンさんより劣っていますが、代わりに彼は反射と判断力が秀でているように見受けられます。蹴りの中でも特に重い一撃を見切り、正面から受けるのを避けていますね。
Really? I wasn't a fighter myself, so I didn't see the difference between each strike. But even if he was avoiding heavy kicks, he was still getting injured. Honestly, Saskia, it was the most sensible response to Mathis' attack. I thought of it the previous time. Soon enough, Mathis' knife was kicked away, and he fell rear first on the ground.
ここまでですね。これ以上続けると体を痛めてしまいますよ、マティス君。
はい、シアンさん、ありがとうございました。いい訓練になったかと。
どこがだ。腕を磨きたいなら今後は俺よりクルーンと自警団に頼め。獲物の扱い方もあいつらの方が心得ている。あるいはそっちの教師でもいいがな。
Cian rolled his shoulders as he turned his attention to Lucas. You mean Lucas?
気づいていないのか。観察力のない奴らめ。佇まいや足運びからして外見を裏切りその男、それなりに動けるぞ。
え？
Mathis and I stared at the beautifully delicate Lucas. He then chuckled with a lovely smile on his face.
これでも教師ですからね。いざという時、教え子を守れる程度には鍛えているつもりですよ。セレス君とマティス君を両脇に抱えて国を一周するぐらいは余裕です。
Lucas spoke in a somewhat embarrassed tone, but the information I was hearing simply didn't match the gentleman in front of me.
抱えられる側ではなくてですか？
マティス君は気弱に見えて正直な子ですね。
Lucas kept his beautiful smile, as if Mathis' words didn't bother him one bit. Club says, He behaved very predictable. Before long, the sun had completely set. I was now faced with a predicament. If I'm here to help as a maid, then that means I'll need to cook too, right? Wait a second. I want to check one little thing. Okay, that's good. Sorry. I knew it was strange to be unsure when I was the one who asked everyone to buy groceries. Everyone would be returning inside soon. Considering how busy everyone was, I needed to make enough for everyone and then some. I knew that, but somehow, memories of the day I made breakfast for Mila and the children returned to mind. Perhaps I could ask someone else to cook for me, or maybe I should ask one of them to buy something to eat from the market. My mind began to come up with ideas. I slapped my cheeks with my hands to knock the negative thoughts out of my mind. I should get moving and prepare dinner already. I doubt they'll be that surprised and they can decide for themselves whether they want to eat or not. If they refuse to eat what I made, I could eat it myself in portions for a few days. I rolled up my sleeves and headed into the kitchen. With the ingredients all set out, I started dicing the vegetables when
あ、やっぱりもう準備始めてたんだ。
Eve came peeking through the entrance. In his hands was a huge box, and each time he took a step forward, I could hear water splashing from inside. Eve, what is that?
これ？家から持ってきた食材。俺、料理が趣味の一つなんだ。せっかくの機会だし、ずっと考えていたレシピをみんなに振る舞いたいと思って、君の邪魔はしないし、なんなら作業も手伝うから、隣で作らせてもらっていい？
Well, sure, if you don't mind, but I'm curious. What do you have in there? What's inside?
ただの魚だよ。
Eve opened the top of the box with glee. He took out the small tank and showed me the fish swimming slowly around. I've never seen a fish like that before. Was it really a fish? It was strangely round, with very different features from normal fish. As Eve happily sharpened his knife, I wondered whether I was more curious than necessary. Maybe he got a fish that's rarely found at the market. If that was the case, I should see what he was preparing something special for everyone. I wonder what kind of recipe he has in mind with this fish. I can't wait. Based on how happy he seemed, I figured he must be a really good cook. It would be nice if I could watch him, but I needed to start cooking so that we had enough food on the table for everyone. MC Club says, speaking of teachers, it reminds me of a question I can't yet answer. What is my real profession? It might seem strange coming from college graduate, but I'm a terrible computer scientist, and I kinda can't find a way around this yet. Well, I would say that computer scientist is awfully broad term. And besides, I don't know the exact specific of your education. But I would say the one you'll be able to find, if you ask me about profession. The one you'll be able to get on practice in the form of job. A few hours later, preparation for dinner went smoothly. Spread across the table was a feast for 6.
おや、これは実に食欲をそそられるメニューですね。彼女と共に育ったアドルフ君はこんな素敵な手料理を毎日のように食べていたのですか。
いい香り。羨ましいです。
見てアドルフ、依頼の報酬でもらったお酒家からたくさん持ってきちゃった。彼女が用意してくれた料理にも合うだろうし、みんなで飲み会しようよ。飲み会。
本当に飲み会好きだな。弱いくせに。
羽を伸ばすと一度決めた以上、君も潔く伸ばすべきですよ、アドルフ君。
If you're still here, I'd be curious to know which one of the male characters is the most up to your taste. Be it Eve, Lucas, Mazis, Cian, or Adolphe. Since we have the day to rest, you should accept his...
シアンさんも飲まれるでしょ。
まあたまには安い酒もいいか。
僕はやめておきます。18にならないと飲酒は認められないので。
Well, at very least I can say that it is a fairly good attitude, and I hope it will help you. I don't drink either. Let me get some cups and glasses for everyone. Everyone sat down in the chairs around the table that were brought from Korun. Lucas gave a prayer of thanks to God. Then the noisy banquet began. Meat, eggs, vegetables, a variety of dishes colored the table, but in particular, the fish that Eve sliced really stands out. I was surprised the first time I heard that fish could be eaten raw, but okay, it's sashimi reference. The cuts of fish are really pretty. They look like shards of glass. Please keep in mind, if you, for some reason, one day will decide to eat raw fish, either do it when sorry, I lost it. If one day you decide to eat raw fish, either rely on some really good expert, like really good professional, and it have to be pricey, really pricey. Or don't do it, because fish is full of parasites and various unpleasant stuff, and a good portion of these parasites can live at least for some time in human body too, and cause us a whole lot of problems. The dish attracted everyone else's attention as forks reached out for a slice of the fish. I decided to observe everyone's reaction before having a bite. 5 seconds later, a tragedy occurred. Glasses fell onto the table, splashing wine all over. Like a murder scene, the red wine spread slowly across the floor. 3 of them had their heads on the table, seizing and foaming at the mouth. 3 who gathered to capture Burrow, who would never have met otherwise. What's happening? No reply. Suddenly, Cian raised his arm limply after letting out a gurgled cough. We need a doctor, now! My mind stretched far into the distance, toward Dr. Cappuccini. 10 minutes later.
見たことねえ料理が紛れてると思ったら、イブ、またお前の仕業か。
危うく23の天命を全うする前に神のもとへ召されるところでした。
面白い。全身の痙攣、激しい吐き気、体の各部に残る強いしびれ。
You mean that one with the... That one is the guy with the deep voice? The one on the left? Well... I definitely don't like him as a romantic partner in that game. But he is just an interesting character. Black-haired dude also have a deep voice, relatively deep.
何をどう調理すればこんな症状が起きるようになる？
The 3 returned from the brink of death, their bodies propped up by their elbows. After witnessing the tragedy, I finally realized the truth behind Eve's cooking. He's the most horrible cook in the world. Okay, Lazy. Well, while I assume it would require you to stop being lazy, but decent choice. Decent choice. Club says, Cian is like, I did not have shit like this in 40 years. Interesting. His cooking actually knocked people out cold.
答えろ。今度はどんなゲテモノを料理に紛れ込ませた？
Eve put it a bit in response to Adolphus' question.
ゲテモノじゃないってば。ちゃんと味見もしたし。
Well, for some it can be a nightmare, for others it will be a wet dream. Sorry. It's no mystery ingredient. I tasted what I made myself.
アドルフも知ってるはずだよ。ほら、この間海辺に流れ着いてきた丸くて愛嬌がある顔の魚。
Okay. He gave them fugu. He fucking gave them fugu. Raw fugu fish. Raw fugu fish. I like Eve.
いかにも危険そうな魚、逃がしてなかったのか。というか食べる気になったのか、あれを。
Good question. I would probably assume that Doctor was fast enough and found some sort of antidote Though actually, it's really hard to uh, treat a person who was poisoned by tetrodotoxin. It's a toxin of fugu fish. It's quite an interesting substance because that toxin doesn't really change much. It's not really causing any reaction in your body. It has quite low biological activity, but it has another interesting trait. It blocks natrium channel in your cells, in your nervous cells of nervous system, in your muscles, and it blocks it like a plug. Like literally, it just stands there like a plug because of shape and size of the molecule. And it stops the work of the cell. And soon you can't breathe because your breathing muscles are paralyzed.
どんな未知の食材だろうと丁寧に処置すれば美味しくいただけるはず。っていうのがうちに代々伝わる家訓だからね。逃がすなんてもったいないことできないよ。
その意味不明な家訓と味音痴で何度自警団が壊滅しかけたと思ってる。この殺人料理マニア。
So he's a bad taster too. I found out that his cooking pit the members of the corps against death on a daily basis. Eve is so cute. Cian and Lucas' faces went pale as they imagined it. It was then that Mathis finally began to speak. Come to think of it, Mathis hadn't been knocked out cold like the others.
アドルフさん、そんなに言わなくても。味覚は人それぞれですし、僕はこれ美味しいと思います。
Eyes filled with awe and confusion focused on Mathis. But I could see with my own eyes that he was speaking the truth because he took another slice of the fish and ate it happily without showing any signs of illness whatsoever. Seeing someone actually enjoy his dish, his face lit up.
だよね。ちゃんと美味しいよね。
はい。きっと皆さん、慣れない味と食感に驚いてしまったのかと。根気よく作り続けていけば、きっとこの美味しさを理解してくれる人が増えていきますよ。
嬉しいな。俺の料理を認めてくれたのは君が初めてだよ、マティス。俺、もっと頑張るね。みんなに喜んでもらえる料理を作れるように。
応援してます。次に何かまた作られたら、ぜひ食べてみたいです。
もちろん、真っ先に君を招待するよ。
On the one hand, while I was observing what seemed like an enjoyable conversation between brothers,
悪夢の連鎖だ。
with a newfound supporter, his destructive cooking would only spread. I could tell that much from Adolphus' pained groan. After carefully confirming that the other dishes were prepared by me, they began eating once again.
おや、グラスの減りが悪いようですが。 研究所での生活が中心となると、やはりこういったたしなみとは縁遠くなるもので。
安い酒が舌に合わんだけだ。お前こそ経験なる信徒様が酒なんて飲んでいいのか？
勘違いされがちですが、私の神は禁酒の法を敷かれていません。節度を守り、酒という欲に溺れることがなければ問題ないと私は解釈しています。
そうか。で、一人で酒を何本開けた
？12本ですね。
Only 12 bottles. Yep, confirms lazy. Smash on all.
アルコールを短時間で過剰に摂取すると
I hope you'll
分解
enjoy.
能力が追いつかず痛い目を見るぞ。そうだな。具体的な例を挙げれば悲惨なことになる。
もしや顔に出ないだけですでに相当酔われています？まだグラス一杯のお酒すら飲まれていなかったはずですが。
は？何をバカなこと。俺は酔ってなどいない。見ろ。この程度の安酒なら浴びるように飲める。
比喩ではなく本当に頭から浴びていますね。これは後ほどお掃除が大変そうです。
誰が胃袋としそう脆弱じじいだ。
一言も言っていません。
シアンさん、お酒に弱いんですね。意外ですけど、完璧より何か隙があった方が親しみやすくていいと思いますよ。ねえセレス、あれいつの間にか背縮んだ？俺それになんだか肌の色も変わって。
イーブ、お前が話しかけてんのは空になった酒瓶だ。
あれ？あごめんごめん、こっちだった。
イーブさん、僕マティスです。
もう一本開けるぞ。俺はまだまだ飲める。
俺もおかわり都合。
こぼれてます。飲む前に全部こぼれてます。
I don't know about you, but I'm going to make this a screenshot. Okay. Okay. Continue. Alcohol is really scary. I think that summed up the situation well.
でもちょっと楽しそうです。いいな。僕もあと1年早く生まれてたらな。ただイーブさんとシアンさんのイメージが一気に崩れてしまったのが。
新たな側面を知ることもまた親睦を深めるということですよ。
Drinking quietly to himself, Adolphe held his head and groaned.
お前ら二人はこんな大人になってくれるなよ。
He pleaded to me, and Mathis, with as little strength as he had left in him. I looked around and saw that everyone was eating the dishes I cooked for them.
あ、こっちのオムレツおいしい。お酒よりミルクと一緒に食べた方がいいかな。
こちらの魚のソテーもなかなかですよ。ハーブの香りが臭みをうまく消し去っていて。
油分が少ないものはないのか。胃がもたれる。
でしたら、こっちに美味しいサンドイッチが。
This feels similar to when I first brewed tea for Eve. I brought it up earlier, but I thought maybe I should confirm just in case. Now was probably not the best time, but I mentioned this earlier, but I prepared most of the dishes. Are you okay with that? My voice stopped everyone, including the two who were drunk. The four of them blinked a few times, so they all looked at me at once.
何がですか？
They looked at me with bewilderment, not understanding, or bewilderment, I don't really know. I'm stupid, sorry. Not understanding what I was asking. I was surprised and happy beyond belief. Before I knew it, a tear rolled down my cheek.
どうしたんですか？
俺たちなんか変なこと言っちゃった？泣かないで、俺のハンカチ貸すから。わーら！
おやおや、派手に転んでしまって、ここは代わりに私のを。
ん？ああ。悪いな。グラスと間違えて酒を注いでしまった。
お気になさらず。本当に面白い酔い方をされますね。
ハンカチも水も俺が用意するから、酔っ払いどもはおとなしくしてろ。
Each of their actions brought me a sense of joy and comfort, and soon I couldn't hold back any longer. I bent forward, holding my stomach with laughter. What a warm and joyous sight! To think that only days ago I held a dagger to my neck with a desire to commit suicide. I never expected the day would come when I would be laughing again like a child. It all feels like a dream. After Eve and the rest got through their hangover, we were finally moving forward to get our operation underway. The tent from Kurun that Hugo delivered was set up in the garden. We decided on the grouping and placement of the corpse so that they could protect the commoners first and foremost. We also got approval to spread rumors about requesting access to the bodies from their families. Jean was keeping an eye on the situation in Cherries and visited Mathis to see how he was doing. Lucas had something he needed to attend to during the afternoon hours, but he always returned by night, reporting to us information he heard from the residents of both Cherries and Cohen. Cian returned to the institute each day to prepare the dummy corpses for the operation. The two members of the corps were finding time to train with Mathis, and as for me, the best I could do for everyone was handling the daily chores, so that I could make their lives a little less stressful. Late one night, unable to sleep, I was lured outside by the moonlight shining through the window. Adolphe's house was located on the outskirts of town, so regardless of the time, the area was always quiet and peaceful. So much so that it was hard to believe a killer like Burrow was actually hiding somewhere relatively nearby. Though it might not be right to say, I felt the days here were very fun. No one died because of me, and no notable misfortune occurred. Everyone here accepted me for who I was, allowing me to enjoy myself as I pleased. The happiness I dreamed about for years had finally arrived, but I was still confused at the change. It's as if I'm finally living like a normal world.
それは当然だと思う。私が君の力を抑え込んでいるからね。
You're the Watchman of Death, who came from Hades to appear in front of me that day. Uncle.
久しいね、同胞の姫君。息災で何よりだ。私の助言は君の道しるべになっているかな？
So, have my words served as a beacon for you? Yes. After a moment's pause, I nodded. This mysterious man was responsible for the life I was living now. And he wanted me to go after the killer in exchange for it to continue. If we entered into a contract together, I didn't need to be so cautious in front of him. Still, what exactly do you mean when you say that you're suppressing my power?
そのままの意味さ。あの夜、私は君の自死を止めた際、とある術を君の身にかけ、一時的に死神としての力を抑え込むことに成功した。
Duration? And that's the reason nothing bad has happened?
少々運も絡むが、私の力によるところが大きい。しかし、この術にも限界がある。一定期間が過ぎ効果が切れれば、君はまた人に死を招く死神に戻ってしまうだろ
う。As I murmured sadly, Uncle's brow rose.
姫君、そんな悲しそうな顔をしないでおくれ。私もね、好きで君に意地悪をしているわけではないのだよ。君の死神としての力は膨大だ。私とて条件を満たさぬ限り完全に無効化することはできない。それを果たすために提示したのがあの契約なのさ。
That's right. Remember you said something similar back then. Thank you very much for the reminder. I can't promise you now, but I'll think about it once I'm feeling calmer.
ああ、それがいいだろう。そろそろ事態も状況も動き出す。多くの出会いを経て、君は一体どの死に向き合うことになるのか。あのリコリスの花園で決断を下す時をここ。
A curtain of leaves flew into the air. Just like on the first night, Anko disappeared into the darkness. Yes, my currently life was only temporary. No matter how fun things were, everyone had a place to which they must return one day. In fact, once this incident was resolved, it was possible I would never speak with those who gathered here ever again. I accept that. I only want to repay them for the bright smiles they gave me. I'll do what I can to help. I knew exactly how I could start. I could make something even better for breakfast to make everyone happy. The following day. Okay, and here I would suggest to do a short, really short, like 5 minutes long break. And I would suggest you to take your medicines if you haven't done this before. I would recommend you to have something to drink, visit a toilet, if bodily needs forces you to do so. And in 5 minutes, I'll be back. I'm sorry, it took slightly longer than I expected. About 8 minutes instead of 5. My apologies. But we can proceed. We can proceed. Also, yes, Club, feel free to rant about your games. I am prepared. The following day. Finally, the KPs needed to complete the operation had finally arrived. So, those are the dummy corpses? In the room were a few bodies made to look like real humans. I gasped in surprise upon taking a closer look at the faces lacking eyes and a mouth. I just got access club. Good timing.
それは豚肉などを元に人間の型のみ再現したもどきの人形だ。今は綺麗なものだが、後ほどあえて破損させ、発見時そのままの状態に再現する。
I bet they're good enough to deceive Burrow. I was frightened by their appearance. I assumed you were going to prepare them out of ceramic or mud.
それだと触った質感や重量で即座に見抜かれるだろう。
Cian added that it would also poke your eyes, as they could
こ
be
こから
easily
が本
broken.
題だ。お前、この人形たちに服を着せてみろ。
Uh-huh. Cian tipped over a stack of boxes, and out came a load of different clothes.
丸裸の死体。というのもおかしな話だろう。カツラもこちらで用意した。被害者の性別や年齢に見合った服なら何でもいい。
I see. So that's why he brought me here. Understood. Let me get started right away.
どうした？
Wait. Well, I've only taken a glance so far, but the clothes you have doesn't seem to match the size of any of the dummies. The dummies should have been made to resemble adult men and women, but the clothes here were too small. I could even spot some children's clothes mixed
無理
in.
やり着せればいいだろ
The clothes will tear if we force them. Why were these selected in the first
う。
place?
売り上げが良く単価が最も高いものを片っ端からマルシェで買ってきた。
So, the compatibility to age and
してい
gender.
ない。服なんぞ最低限肌を隠せれば何でもいいだろ
Okay. That seemed to be typical of Cian, who lived isolated at the institute. It still didn't solve the problem of not having suitable clothing to fulfill his demand of dressing them properly. I'm sorry, but can you give me some time? I'll try and resize the clothes using the extra fabric we have
う。そ
here.
んなことできるのか？
Yes, just enough to make them decent.
わかった。好きにしろ。ただし明日の夜までには仕上げてみせろ。
Quickly got to work by carrying the clothes to the room where I was currently staying.
あいつに育てられたとは思えんほど従順で静かな女だな。あの娘が振りまくという不幸、死や火災、迷子や雷雨といった迷信にはかけらも興味なぞないが、今後の状況によっては別件で使えるかもしれん。
Glob says, so I'm thinking again about how I've prepared for the campaign. I've done the necessary 80% of backstory and hooks, and that's okay because I'm waiting for the GM to tell me more about his part. For example, who my mentor and patron are, and all the other things that are beyond my control. That seems fairly good. What is expected length of the campaign? I know it's really hard to predict, but at least roughly, if you can tell me. Everyone finally began to take definitive action for the operation. The dummies were damaged and decorated with fake blood to look similar to the bodies from the incident, then placed in the tent. The families of the victims began to spread the rumor that CN forcefully purchased the bodies from them, just as Eve had planned. At Chernobyl, the Hut helped us with the operation by making an announcement that the Institute had nothing to do with it. We slowly increased the number of bodies in the tent over a 2-day span. Now we were lying in wait for Bureau to arrive. The Corps had fortified their night patrol unit so that the fight with Bureau wouldn't lead to casualties among the residents. While it would be helpful to have help from anyone we could get. Oh god. Club responds to me. It's like from the first to 20 levels, so it'll take long, probably a year and a half or two.
相手が規格外すぎるからな。お前ら自警団のツートップがまとめてかかってもかなわねえ相手とか。下手に俺らが手出ししたところで足手まといの死者が増えるだけだ。けどお前らが死んだら多分俺がリーダーを引き継ぐことになる。んな責任ある立場なんてごめんだね。だからイブ、アドルフ、勝たなくていい。死ぬんじゃねえぞ。
もちろん。戻ったらしばらく休みがちになってたクルーン業再開しないとね。
二度と遅れを取る気はねえ。必ず生きて帰ってくる。
坊ちゃん、やはり俺は坊ちゃんの参加には反対です。あまりにも危険すぎます。せめて俺もおそばに。
ダメ。これ以上人数増やすと目立つから。心配してくれてありがとう。じゃあ。でも今回は亡くなった人の遺体の行方もかかってるから。
Well, I wish you to enjoy that campaign, Club, and I hope that it will leave you no regrets.
皆さんの邪魔をしたり一人で勝手なことはしないよ。
Maybe the only regret you'll have is that DM will forbid you the chance to turn a magic hand into a testicular torsion spell.
ちゃんと戻ってくるから。屋敷で待ってて。
わかりました。その言葉信じておりますからね。
シアンさん、早く終わらせて戻ってきてくださいね。シアンさんが抜けると全体の稼働率がかなり落ちるんです。僕もう3日は寝てません。
たかが3日がどうした。いっそ俺の記録を超えるつもりで17日間徹夜してみろ。お前ならできる。
寿命が来る前に殺すつもりですか。
うすうす予想はしていたけれど、あなたまで参加するのね。
I know, Club, but still. Yes, Adolphe isn't too happy, but everyone came to the decision that it would be safer for me to be with them than staying at his place alone. I'm worried about them too. I want to try and help them as much as possible without getting in the way.
そのお手伝いの内容は危険なものではないでしょうね。
Yes, my job is to stay away from danger and to take care of anyone who might get injured from the fight. I want to do anything rash, so please don't worry about me, Mother.
相手が相手なのよ。心配するに決まっているでしょう。あなたのわがままを認めると、あの日約束してしまったものね。
Mother.
アドルフと2人で必ず無事に戻ってくるのよ。あの日楽しみにしていた3人での食事会もまだ開けていないのだから。
Understood. No, it was probably more like understood. 2 days quickly passed as each of us prepared for the upcoming encounter. Finally, our target made his move. I could hear rustling coming from outside. I was sleeping near the others in the room, but I quickly rose up on hearing the noise.
来たか。
Everyone took notice and got up. We then peeked outside to discover a shadow trying to drag one of the dummies Cian made out of the tent. The fearsome shadow was burned into my mind.
出るぞ。
Adolphe, Eve, and Mathis all jumped out at the same time. The shadow had dragged out one of the dummies from the tent, then turned his back for a moment. Mathis quickly threw his knife like before. The knife found its mark on Burak's back, and he groaned in an indistinguishable voice. In a flash, Adolphe moved toward the front, and Eve towards the back to sandwich Burak.
これは警告だ。さっきお前に刺さったナイフには遅効性の強力な毒が塗られている。
Perhaps I wouldn't mind them sandwich me either. Though I would probably rather replace Adolphe with someone else.
それを解毒するための薬は俺たちしか用意していない。だから助かりたかったら今すぐ武器を下ろして。
They were bluffing. The knife was treated with only an anesthetic, but there was no reason for us to tell Burak the truth. If this were a normal person, he would beg for his life and give up to get the poison out of him, but Burak didn't say anything and didn't even look afraid. He hurled the dummy he dragged out right at Adolphe. The dummy landed on the sword that Adolphe raised in defense. His sword and side were momentarily blocked, and using the opportunity, Burak quickly turned and ran as blood continued seeping down his back. He ran?
なんとしびれ薬を塗られてもなおあんな動きができるのですか。
言ってる場合か。出るぞ。
悪い、取り逃がした。
まさかこっちの脅しに耳を傾けもしないなんて。
まあそう簡単に捕まるのならこの衛兵たちも殺されていないだろう。だが動き自体は鈍っている。 今なら車で追いつけるはずだ。クロードの末っ子。
はい。自動車の用意できてます。
最終確認ですが、マティス君は本当に運転できるんですね。
大丈夫です。初日だってこの車を運転してこの家にお邪魔したんですから。
Assured, seeing his confident nod as I sat down in the front seat as the team sped.
狭い。
我慢しろ。詰めろとか言ったら蹴り出すぞ。
I could sit in the back and
乗り
stand.
直している時間がもったいないです。このまま追跡しましょう。
ですね。けど追いつけるかな。彼、入り組んだ路地へ続く道の方に走っていったし。
問題ありません。
He firmly gripped the steering wheel and drove the engine.
あの程度の距離、僕ならすぐに詰められます。
Mother's eyes changed. Okay. I'm sorry, but it's definitely time for yet another screenshot. Galloping across the road. What is? You're going way too fast. We're dangerously
運
close to.
転に集中できないので話しかけないでください。
Okay. I was sitting in the passenger seat, so I could hold onto the window sill and fight the turns, but the back seat was in utter chaos.
うわー、まだ加速するの？おお、マティス君はハンドルを握ると性格が変わる人ですか。見事な車体さばきですが、これは明らかにマナー違反です。
Nani? Pansei Dorito! But yeah, it really. Deja vu, I've just been in this place before. Deja vu, I've just been in this place before.
後ほど安全運転について説く個人授業を行う必要がありますね。
I suppose I should set aside some time to talk to him about driving safe.
そんなのんきなことを言ってる場合じゃ、このままじゃ俺たちの方が先に死ぬ。
Club, can I ask you a favor? Get rid of that piece of scrap code. Or you, Mouse. You too.
クルーンと自警団のどっちか俺に剣の鞘を貸せ。なんなら上着でも構わんぞ。
あんた中に履くつもりだろ。絶対貸さねえ。
だから静かにしてください。
The car took a sharp right. I was surprised to see that we just narrowly beat into the alley. Thank you, Club. Higher on the pit, and I know it's my place to go. Calling you. Sorry. Fortunately, there weren't many homes here, and the court already told everyone to stay inside, but
何遊んでんだ、あいつら。
it wasn't surprising that a few curious people peeked outside through their windows.
なんだよこの騒ぎ。自警団が大量死の犯人を追うとかいう話だったんじゃねえのか。
けど今一瞬、死神の娘がアドルフやイブと同情してるのが見えたぞ。
ならあの子も犯人逮捕に協力してるっていうか、そもそも犯人じゃないってこと？
Inside the speeding car, I had no idea what the resident might be thinking as we whipped past their faces in the window. Sparks flew as the car scraped the walls from time to time, but Mattis kept up the speed in pursuit of our target. And finally,
見つけた。
his eyes filled with hatred. Mattis gripped the wheel tightly and without a single moment of
最低
hesitation.
限ショックは抑えますが、念のために身構えてください。
Before anyone could ask what he meant, the engine roared and accelerated to its maximum speed. Wait, hold on. You're not going to... One of the benefits of being in the front seat was that I was in full view of the accident Mattis was purposely going to cause. Everyone, duck! I quickly shouted to the back seat, but Mattis suddenly pumped the brakes and...
しね！
The car finally collided. He rammed the car right into Bourreau, who was running ahead of us. Is everyone alright? With my medical kit in hand, I jumped out of the passenger seat and checked on everyone in the back seat.
なんとか奇跡的に全員生きてるかな。
Also, Mouse, welcome back.
君の方こそ怪我はありませんか。
Yes, I suppose I was lucky. Lucas kicked off the now wrecked door, and tumbling out behind him came the other 3 passengers.
何が死ねだ。死にかけたのはこっちだ。
Cian covered his mouth with his hand, just as he was beginning to curse the driver. A small shadow quickly got out of the car.
ごめんなさい。シャンからも坊ちゃんは運転が荒いって注意されていたんですけど、ハンドルを握ったらつい熱が入ってしまって。
For some reason, I felt a chill when I saw Mattis back to his usual self.
それよりブローはどうなった？
Over there. I pointed my finger up. On the road was Bourreau, using his weapon as a crutch to hold himself up. Good, he is alive. My sense of relief was short-lived as he positioned his weapon and, with a swift kick off the ground, leapt towards us like a beast. Toward us like a
イブ
beast.
構えろ。
あの傷でまだ戦えるのか。
殺すなよ。まだ盗んだ死体の居場所を吐かせていない。
余裕があればな。
セレス君、マティス君、私と共にもっと後ろへ。
A former teacher's instruction. I somehow forced Mathis, who was trying his best to stop himself from attacking Burrow, to step back as far as possible. The moment arrived. Weapons of offense and defense clashed. I'm not sure about that one, but anyway, we'll find it in the gallery later. Just like that night. More than that night, Burrow attacked them more fiercely than before. He was wounded badly from the collision, but he showed no signs of pain as his wound tore with each swing of his halberd. Even so, Eve was confused. He was parrying the blow with his sword as he glanced toward Adolfo. The eyes looked back at him in agreement, which meant he was not the only one.
腕力も速さもこの間戦った時とほぼ同じ。なのに弱くなってる。動きに前みたいな洗練さがない。
That seems to be damaged. During the previous battle, the two of them learned that they were at a disadvantage from both a skill and strength standpoint. But now, the assailant was attacking without hiding his savagery. He was attacking without any thought now, like a feral animal. But then, they sensed that none of their attacks would hit their mark. Their instincts told them so they focused on their defense.
今なら絡めて使えるかな。
He suddenly decided on it.
とりあえずやってみよう。これ以上戦いが長引いたら彼は死んでしまうかもしれない。俺はまだ彼と何も話していない。どうしてこんなことをしたのか、それを聞くまでは死なせないよ。
Eve began to tap to her rhythm. Then repositioned his sword. He then charged straight at Burrow. Adolfo called out as soon as he realized what Eve was going to do. Burrow was ready to thrust his weapon. Eve smiled on the inside. His target had no intention of dodging. Part of his shoulder was gouged, sending blood into air. Still, Eve didn't stop. With a good deal of effort, Eve crouched down and peered from below Burrow, who was stunned by the move. He thrust his sword to pierce Burrow's arm, and quickly...
このやるなら先に言え。
Adolfo appeared from behind Eve and swung his sword. His blade struck the target's other arm. Eve!
イブさん
With both arms wounded, blood flowed down into the road. Mathis and I tried to call Eve's name, but he wasn't showing any pain at all. He then pushed his sword deeper into Burrow so that he couldn't get away.
Huh?
Burrow finally lost his ability to hold his weapon when I sensed a sharp object flying by the side of my face. The projectile pierced Burro's shoulder. Before Burro could even groan, Dolph and Eve quickly tackled him to the ground. The object that struck him fell and clinked onto the ground. A knife? Wait. On the ground was the knife that Mathis always had strapped to his leg. He had drawn it without any of us knowing and threw it at a lightning speed. I didn't notice it at all. I looked at Mathis in surprise, but for some reason he was also looking at the knife on the ground and his own leg in confusion.
僕のナイフ？
素晴らしい。100点満点の投擲です。お手柄ですね、マティス君。
いえ、違う。
今日は予想外の行動ばかりするな、クロードの末っ子。だが、ようやく終わったか。
Before Mathis could respond, Ian walked toward Burro. Seeing Burro trying to break free, Ian briskly kicked his head.
おっと、すまんな。今の俺は車酔いで、少しばかり機嫌が悪い。
He then stomped on Burro's head so that it bounced off the ground.
わあ、死んではないけど完全に脳震盪を起こしてるね。
えげつないな。あんた靴底に鉄板仕込んでるだろ。
自衛用だ。人間相手にはめったに使わんから安心しろ。さて、旗迷惑なブロードやら、俺とはこれが初対面だな。とっとと身分と死体の隠し場所を白状してもらおうか。
Cian's fingers reached down to remove the hood covering Burro's face. Suddenly, dripping could be heard from an alley.
今の音は
Maybe some passing rain? The dripping slowly increased in frequency, and it was a muddled mixture of rain tempers. Luca's face suddenly went pale.
皆さん、今すぐそこから。
The three surrounding Burro instinctively jumped back, even before his warning. Suddenly, a few centimeters before Cian could touch the hood, from right above Burro, death mercilessly rained down. No! I could smell and taste the pungent odor of the liquid and flesh burning. In seconds, Burro's skin changed color into a pale, ashen color. Soon enough, his face and body melted into indistinguishable form.
やめろイブ、間に合わねえ。でも
そちらにとどまるのは危険です。今すぐ下がってください。あれはおそらく強力な硫酸です。触れるだけで肌が焼かれますよ。
そんな。
Where did all that come from? I looked up. Above Burro was a shadow, looking down at us from atop the roof of a building. But the moonlight wasn't bright enough to reveal who it was up there. The shadow moved away as the rain ceased. In a place of the rain, a large container that probably held the acid fell to the ground. He looked on at what was once his brother's killer, slowly turning into a scalded mass. Mathis wasn't looking on with joy or hatred. If anything, his eyes were filled with fear and
油断しすぎよ。
you
まった
really
く。
need to be careful. All that was left was a burned, mutilated body. Hugo and the poor arrived at the scene shortly after the horror we witnessed. They placed a tarp over the body so that no one could see the hideous result.
顔が完全にただれていた。あれでは身元を調べられん。
Burak, who terrorized Chadis and threatened the piece of poem, met a tragic and gruesome end. The result left a bitter taste in the mouth of everyone who was involved. A week later,
そのセレス悪かった。大量死事件の犯人はあんたじゃなくてブローとかいうやつだったんだな。
good idea, Club. Good idea.
なのに俺新聞を鵜呑みにして決めつけたりしてごめん。しかもアドルフと一緒に奴を追いかけてやっつけたんだろ。すげえよあんた。
Well,
正直まだ少し怖いけどさ、あんたを見る目を変えられるよ。俺頑張るよ。じゃあ俺チビたちと一緒に遊んでくるな。また後で。
yes. See you later. Milo ran out happily after saying what was on his mind, but I wasn't able to tell him everything. Mother, is this really alright? I faced Mother with a shaking
国
voice.
が決めたことよ。王家は国民たちをこれ以上不安にさせないため、この決断を下した。
But we hadn't discovered the truth yet. We couldn't do autopsies on the bodies, nor could we figure out who exactly Burrow was. With no proof, the incident was announced to be the doing of Burrow, who distributed illegal drugs across districts. Well, that's somewhat more complicated, but you'll see. As long as you'll be visiting my streams. That announcement did remove any suspicion that was on me, but even now, I couldn't forget the sight of odor of the man who died without a single word. Not only that, that shadow that was on the roof. It's as if they were trying to hide something. There are now more questions than answers. Yet we're just looking to end. Yet we're just going to end it like this. I'm sorry. After telling everyone about the shadow I saw, others quickly gave chase, but in the end they couldn't find the shadowy figure anywhere. With the appearance of someone else who might be involved, I could only feel that something bad was still to come. What if Burrow had nothing to do with those who died from suicide?
でも、あなたが起こした不幸でもないわ。犯してもいない自分の罪を相手が背負った、なんて思っているのなら、 あなたは最初から無実。何もしていないの。それでも自分のせいだと考えているのなら、それこそ死者への冒涜であり、傲慢よ。ブローが数年前から多くの人を惨殺し、今回変死体を狙い、アドルフたちを殺そうとした事実は変わらない。ひどい結末だったかもしれないけれど、自身の死でその重い罪を償った。そう割り切りなさい。身元がわからないのだから、不要なそしりを受けないだけいいでしょう。それに今さら撤回したら、またあなたに恐れや嫌悪が向けられることになるわよ。
Understood.
おい、聞いたか？イブたちが大量死事件の真犯人を倒したんだってよ。
相変わらず頼りになる奴らだよな。王族なんかよりよっぽど治安のために動いてくれてるよ。
私たちにとってはもうちょっとした英雄よね。
イブの見舞いだ。あいつの肩の毛が。
おお、腹が立つぐらいにケロッとしてら。こっちの気も知らねえで、あっさり奥の手を使いやがって。切られた場所が悪かったらどうなってたと。
まったくもって同感だ。まだ沈んでるのか。
ああ、ブローを見殺しにしちまったこと、よほど答えてるらしい。たく、何年付き合おうが、あいつの思考回路は理解できねえよ。無実の人間を何人もぶっ殺してきた殺人鬼の死に同情するなんてな。
同情じゃねえだろ。
あ？
ひどく一方的だが、あいつは奴に約束してたからな。
大丈夫。君にどんな理由があろうとなかろうと、俺は最初から全てを否定したりしない。君の言い分は時間をとっていくらでも聞き遂げてみせる。その代わり、その後、君が殺してきた人々の墓とあの少年にどうか詫びてくれないか。
だからその約束を果たせないことを単純に後悔してる。
はぁ、相棒の狂った綺麗事にも困ったもんだ。
綺麗事だからこそ最後まで貫かないと意味がないんだよ。
いい加減割り切れよ。お前みたいな優しすぎる奴がこの国じゃ損して地獄を見るんだぜ。
完全なる骨折り損だ。
シアンさん、珍しく活動的だったのにほんと残念でしたね。結局ブローが隠した死体も見つからなかったんですって？
なあ、ヤスから採取した遺伝子もバックアップデータに該当なし、髪も顔も見事に焼かれ、身元の特定も不可能だ。
つまり一度もリライバーになっていないただの人間だったってことですか？
こんなことなら最初から墓荒らし一択にしておけばよかったか。
もうまたそんなこと言って、イブさんとしないって約束したんでしょ？今から掘り起こすにしても、さすがにもう腐って細かい検視は不可能じゃないですか。
そんなこと言われずとも分かっている。くそ。最終的に得られたのは不在中にたまった膨大な仕事だけか。
え？得られたもの？あるじゃないですか。お友達ですよ。これを機にイブさんたちと仲良くなって、 孤高の一人ぼっちを卒業できるといいですね。
余計な世話だ。俺は無駄な慣れ合いをするつもりはない。
坊ちゃん。そろそろ立ち直られたらどうですか？自分の手で仇を取るという願いこそ叶いませんでしたが、あのお方を殺した男は天によって裁かれたじゃありませんか。
うん。でも、あれだけ必死に追ってきたブローが兄さんの仇があんなにもあっさり死んだことに、まだ実感が全然なくてごめん。じゃあもうしばらく心の整理させてほしい。
坊ちゃん。
No matter the tragedy that occurred in our daily life, the licorice flowers of misfortune always bloomed in a vivid black color. The flowers I was accustomed to seeing reminded me of Bureau's burned skin, sending fear and disgust through my body. I came here hoping that I'd feel better, but it made things worse. The more I looked at the black flowers, the more clearly my mind recalled that scene. I felt a chill from the ghostly being behind me.
状況が落ち着いたと見て君の顔を見に来たのだが、せっかくの仰せだというのに浮かない顔をしているね、私の姫君。
It wasn't a ghost, but the watchman of death. From the sound of things, it seemed he knew what happened in the end. Or perhaps, maybe he's been looking on the whole time. Suddenly a certain thought came to mind. Excuse me, uncle? That night, I saw a shadow kill Bureau. Was that... I was about to ask if he was that shadow.
違う。
He responded before I could finish.
初めて出会った際語っただろう。私の目的は死者を減らすこと。咎人だろうと殺してしまえば、さまよう魂を増やし、自分の首を絞めるだけ。仮に殺すとして、君は私があんな方法を取ると思うかい？
You're right. I couldn't imagine the Watchman of Death actually employing acid as a way of killing someone. I'm sorry for doubting you.
何？構わないよ。だが、咎人の死により一時とはいえ、こうして君の名誉は守られたというのに、一体何が不満だというんだい？なぜそんなにも憂いた顔をしている？
It's because I still hate myself.
In
the end, nothing about me has changed. I discovered the happiness of not being shunned or looked down upon. So now I'm afraid of returning to my secluded life, where I covered from everyone's gossip. I'm trying to forget that shadow and deny the truth by pinning my own sins on Bureau. I'm looking away from reality so that I can protect myself. What if the reality was that I actually caused misfortune with my powers as death? I didn't have the courage to raise my voice. The least I could do now was... Anko. Thank you very much for stopping me from committing suicide back then. That's sad. I'm sorry, but I'll have to refuse your offer. Someone as filthy as I am has no right to live as a normal person.
ならば、君がその本当の真実を暴けばいい。
Huh? I raised my head at his irritated voice.
司祭は語らないが、この国にはまだまだ死を招く花の種子が芽吹いている。この短い間に君が歩んだ奇跡は、所詮序章に過ぎないのさ。
That's true.
自ら命を絶つ異様な死も、理不尽によって奪われる死も、この国の呪いに蝕まれ、儚く散っていく死も、あるいは、まだ日向にすら出ていない様々な死も、何一つ解決していない。
I held my breath as the watchman of death spoke in a calm voice. Wait, I knew something bad was about to happen. Please wait. At the very least, the death caused by Burrow have ended.
いや、むしろ始まったばかりだ。
It can't be. The killer's already dead.
教えることはできない。言ったはずだよ。君がその真実を暴きなさい。
He silently walked toward me. His cold palm cradled my cheek. My consciousness felt like it was sleeping in the cold, lifeless touch of his hand. Anku was preventing me from running away.
それらの死に、君にとって大切なものの魂を奪われ、この私に冥界へと導かれたくはないだろ
う。His words brought an image to mind. The family and friends I had acquired in this short, happy time. Seeing me shiver with fear, the watchman gave a chuckle, and with a low voice, spoke to this foolish death.
おでにまみれながらもせいぜいあがいてみたまえ。私と災いの花リコリスは、君をいつでもそばで見守っている。
His cursed words prevented my escape. Yay, we can start. And I'm starting Matthew's clothes story. Earning his fate to forgive.
やあやあ、そこの美しいお嬢さん。もしや、海を渡る船をお探しで？ならば、私にお任せを。相応の代価さえいただけるなら、私はいかなる手段を使っても、あなたをこの呪われた国から解き放って差し上げましょう。
Let's save. And that will be the end of it for today. On the next stream, we'll start Matthew's route in that great video game visual novel, Virche Evermore, Era Salvation. Thank you for staying here with me. It was a pleasure to have you in chat. Either talking with me, as Master Club did, or just lurking. Please take care We'll meet again tomorrow. Goodbye.